Now we'll be implementing data providers like we have did in our initial frameworks, right? So data provider like will be reading the test data from the Excel file. So if we look over here, I have actually added Excel file. There's the test data Excel file. So I'll open it up. So basically, let's say we have two tests. The test is sign-in test and then we have a flight search test, right? So in sign-in test, we have username, password, and then there's a run mode, right? I can have multiple set of data as well. So then the second user will be this, and the run mode will be Y, right? So same goes for flight search test. For flight search, let's say what all values were reading from flight is while booking up a flight, we were actually getting this value, that is from from city, as in from city to city, right? Then from date and to date, and to date. Right, then we have these numbers as in we were selecting. If I go to so number of see adults and children that we were selecting, these were actually number of adults and number of children. So I'll say number of adults, and then we have number of children, right? And this we were giving it as 2 and 2. Right. So what we need to do, we need to implement data provider. So data provider, as in I've copied this utility. So in this utilities we have a data provider, that is get data, right? This will be common for all our test cases, will help in reading data from Excel. So what we're gonna do is simply we need to mention over here that is data provider class is equal to the class is basically utilities dot class, utilities dot class, right? And then we have the data provider equal to the data provider name as, I think I've given it as DP, so it will be DP. So it will actually going to read the data from here, right? And then we need to add a hash map over here. So sorry, hash table, as while reading the data we're actually getting the data in the form of a hash table itself, right? So we need to put this hash table over here. So hash table will be string and string, the key and value pair will be string string, and then we're gonna give data over here, right? Import it through Java util, and then how the data is going to go over here, it will say data dot get, and the column for this is username, and then this will be data dot get and password, right? And what we need to do, we need to check for the run mode as well. So run mode will be checking it over here. I'll say if data dot get run mode, that is this run mode, dot equals ignore case no, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna say throw new skip exception. So I'll say skipping the test as the run mode is no. So this will be added to your test case, right? But what happens, see, when the execution is done initially, uh, init configuration is called and the browser will be launched. So let's assume that the very first, like all these two run modes are no. So there is no use of launching a browser, right? The browser should not launch if the run mode is no, right? Although what happens, the browser will launch, the execution will not happen. It will not going to enter any value. But I want that the browser should also launch whenever the run mode is yes for that particular test only. So if we have like let's say data in 100 rows over here, we have defined run mode 100 times as no, then 100 times the browser will launch. So what should we do? Instead of creating it in before test, I'll do it after checking the run mode over here. And I'll remove this. This is no more required. And after every test, I want the browser should quit. So I'll make it as after method. And when the browser is quit, right? Let's say the run mode is no. The run mode is no, nothing happens. It will not gonna go inside it. It will not gonna do init configuration. If the init configuration is not done, even the driver reference will not be initialized. So if the driver reference is not initialized, it will not go inside at test, but it will go inside after method, right? Because after every test, this method will be called. It will skip the test and call after method. And in paste.quit, we are calling driver.quit. So if the driver reference is not initialized, it will gonna throw a null pointer exception over here. So what we're gonna add to this, we're gonna check if the driver, if page dot driver is not equal to null, then quit the browser. If it is null, then don't do anything, right? This is what we need to implement in sign-in test, and same thing we need to do it inside the flight search test. So first check the run modes. And set up the data provider as well from the same data provider class. Implement hash table, right? And then get these values. So the first value will be data.get and get the key as from city. And then the second value will be to city, right? Then we have from date, and we have to date, and then number of adults and number of childs. Number of adults and number of children, right? And I would like to show you something. If I print this number of adult and children, what sort of data it will gonna print? Because we are storing it in numbers, as in, I'll say plus, I'll say printing number of adults and children. Right. So that's it. This data is ready. Data provider is ready. Now let's try to run this. We have two set of data over here. So this test should run twice and this test should run only once. And here over here we need to set the run mode as well. Run mode as well. Right, because we have different set of data. So whatever that you want to run, just set up a data run mode accordingly. So let's run this and let's do Maven test and let's see. So first set of data executed. It should quit the browser. Now the second set should execute. See, the second set of data is executing. Right. Quit the browser. And now the other test is executing. Right. So at times it may happen that you can see when we were sending the keys, we were reading the data from the Excel. The data came in this format, 2.0 and 2. So when we are doing send keys, we have entered 2, so it has actually selected 2. But at times it may not select 2. So you need to remove this dot zero from here while reading it from Excel. So this comes in a form of a string. You need to break the string from this dot zero and you need to take the initial part, right? So if you face any challenges related to the drop down while reading from Excel, you need to split it and you need to use the initial string, right? So in this case, it works absolutely fine. There is no issue. If we go back to the reporting part and let's see, we refresh it. Okay, we have the sign in test executed twice. So first it entered this value and then it entered this value and then here it failed and a screenshot is captured. This was an intentional failure that we have made, right? Expected 7 but found 6. So this is how we have executed this test. We have added, implemented the data provider. And now same thing, if you uh, do the run mode of any test to know that test will not be executed. So if I go over here, if I don't want to execute the very first one from here, I'll make it no and then we'll run the test again. You're going to see that it will actually going to skip the first one. So it should not execute the first set, it should directly execute the data of the second test, that is the mail ID with Java way to automation. See, it's executed the second one only. And now it should execute our flight search test. Right? And if we go and look at the reports, so see first test skip, sign in test skip as the run mode as no, and then it executed rest others. So this is how you can skip the test based on the run modes as well, right?